Okay, so what we want to start talking about today is words for operations. You can see our operation symbols that we have up here, and some of them we use are very, very common. For instance, with the first symbol here in this column, I would say add. That's a very common word that I think all of us use. The next one, subtract. The next one, times, is one that you guys use a lot and I use as well. And divide. Okay, so these are some common words. What I'd like you to do is think about other words that we could use. Okay, other words that we can use, and go ahead and fill them in under the plus, minus, multiply, and divide columns. I think I even just used some words there. So if you would, please pause the video and write those words in now. Now that you're done pausing, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and write a few in. And what I'd like you to do is when we come back to class, I want you to go ahead and share if you got anyone's other than what I have. So plus, increase. You might have said added to. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the word add. We could also say in addition to. All right, and there's addition as well. For subtract, I can say minus. Less. I could say decreased.
Teachers, there's a workshop at 8:15 for SharePoint class sites that is about to begin in room 802. Thank you.
Decreased by. I could say for plus, more than. And for less, I would say less than. And those have a special little rule to them, okay? For times, I could say multiply. I could say product. And for add and subtract, going back there, the sum of something means that you added it. For subtract, the difference. For multiplication, we also can say half of. And we could replace that half with anything. You would still be multiplying, okay? You could say 1/3 of, 1/4 of, 1/5 of. You would still be multiplying by that fraction. We could also say double, which means times by 2. And triple, okay? Those are the words that we would use there. For divide, okay, we could say quotient. That's the word that we want to know for divide. Quotient. Okay. Also for divide, we would probably use other words. Sometimes we say half, and that means divide by 2. So we can either say half of something, which means multiply by a half. But remember, half of something also means divide by 2 as well. Okay, so we could say 1/3 of, right? And that would mean divide by 3. Okay. So these are just some words. I'm sure you've come up with more. And so what we want to do is we need to know these words because we're going to see algebraic expressions. And what we need to be able to do is use these and say, okay, what do we need to do? We need to know the words in order to know how to rewrite it. So it says a number C. Now take a look at what I'm going to do here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to underline my variable. Okay? I'm going to circle my operation and put a square around my final term. So I underlined my variable, I circled my operation, and I put a square around my final term. So it says C increased by, if I look up here, I see increase under plus, so plus 5. And that's how we want to write it. Now I see the quotient, that's my operation. Circle your operation. Underline your variable and circle your final term. All right, or circle your number. Quotient means divide. Okay, now when I see quotient of F and 4, that means I need to divide F and 4. So remember in class, we write division as numerator over denominator, more so than actually using the division symbol. Okay, so I'm going to say F divided by 4. That's what the quotient of F and 4 is. And if you think about it, think about the division symbol that we have. It is a fraction bar with a number over a number. That's what a division symbol actually shows, is dividing two numbers, one over the other. Twice 9, all right, here's twice, and there's 9, decreased by, there's another operation, 8. I'm not trying to solve this. All I'm trying to do is to write an expression. Okay? Now this says algebraic expression, and this isn't necessarily algebraic because there's no variables involved. But I can still write 2 times 9 decreased by, that's what twice means. Remember, twice means times 2. Decreased by minus 8. All right, once we can identify the words in our sentence, then we can go ahead and solve it much simpler. What I'd like you to do is answer 4, 5, and 6 on your own. And we'll talk about 5 when we get to class, all right? I want you to think about this for number 5. If I didn't have a number W, okay, if I rewrote it as 6 less than 10, let's say W equaled 10, and I rewrote it as 6 less than 10, what would that look like? All right, I want you to use that thought process when you're looking at number 5. All right, let's go ahead and do a couple over here for 7, 8, and 9. So for 7, I could say T plus 9, right? I could say 6 times negative 6 times B increased by 3. And for number 9, I could say the quotient, you might have said x divided by 4, and that would be fine. But let's get used to understanding what quotient means. That's a word that you may not be so familiar with. So let's use it as much as possible so we get used to understanding what quotient means. The quotient of x and 4. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is to finish 10, 11, and 12. And for either 10 or 12, try and use less than in your examples. For 10 or 12, try and use less than in your example. Thank you.